All right, hello and welcome. Thank you for joining the June webinar. Hopefully everybody can hear me. If you're having any difficulty, go ahead and shoot me a chat message just to make sure I'm not just talking to myself. That's always a good thing. So if somebody maybe can shoot a chat, send a thumbs up that you can hear me, that would be appreciated. Pretty much, like to have these about once a month to give people a good understanding of what we're all about, and give people an intro into what to expect as well. So I'm going to go ahead and go through a lot of different questions, and frequently asked questions. Give you guys a better understanding of the program. I'm going to try to check questions that you guys may have every once in a while. So feel free to shoot over a question, and I can try to get to it, or raise your hand, and I can kind of call on you, and we can kind of have a discussion. But yeah, I'm gonna hopefully try to keep this to an hour. If we go over, I'm here. I can be here all night, talk about this for a long time. So once we don't have any questions, we can stop. So. First thing I wanted to kind of address is, hopefully people are aware of who we are and stay in touch. One thing that we do here at Evolve is we have created a meetup group. Some of you guys have maybe come to some of our meetups, but I'm actually going to put this information in the chat section so you guys can follow us. But we have a meetup group, which is meetup.com/evolvesec. which is a really good place to. I'm sending this over to you guys, so it's in the chat. We'd like to have a meetup about once a month, at least once a month. Sometimes we have it 2 to 3 times a month, and we get together and we do anything from maybe a hands-on workshop where we'll go over maybe a specific security tool and get kind of hands-on and bring your computer, or we have a subject matter expert come in and talk about some relevant topic that's kind of hot in the industry or that we should talk about. Right after the election, Russian election hacking, we had somebody come in and talk about threat intelligence and what the cybersecurity community thought about that breach and kind of what was going on. We had somebody coming in talking about the dark web and what that means. So some pretty cool stuff. But then we also just have, I think our next one's in July 19th. We might have one in between there, but that's the next scheduled one. We're going to be talking about third-party vendor risk management, right? So it's not just your company and how you're dealing with your security, but it's how your vendors deal with security, because your vendors are using and have maybe access to your data and your information. So you need to make sure that's secure as well. And they might share that information with their vendors, so it kind of goes on to the nth degree and whatnot. So yeah, just definitely try to join that meetup group and come out to events as much as you can. We also, you can follow us at Twitter at the EvolveSec. We also have a Slack channel where the community can get together and talk. So it's a way for people to connect. So that's evolvesecurity.slack.com. Then we also have a GitHub account. So that's github.com/evolvesecurity. And what we do is, a lot of our presentations that we might have at one of our EvolveSec meetups, we post a lot of that stuff through our GitHub. And we also have other kind of projects that, like a rubber ducky that you can kind of add to and add scripts to, and we're continually building that out and trying to get involved with the community. So for those who aren't aware, I'm sure you guys have all done this research, but Evolve Security Academy, the entire program is 17 weeks long, okay? And it's a part-time program, and it's essentially nights and weekends. So the first 4 weeks are done remotely, so they're still live instructor-led, but they're done remotely, and that is 3 days a week. So you'll log in Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., and you'll go through those first 4 modules or those first 4 weeks. And then the in-person, the next 13 weeks is our phase 2, which is in-person. And that's when we're in person. We're in Chicago. We're located at the downtown Loop at the Merchandise Mart. and the Merchandise Mart is just north of the river downtown, and we're at a co-working space called 1871. 1871 was the year of the Chicago fire. That's kind of when Chicago got rebuilt. And then we are the, 1871 is the tech startup hub of Chicago, kind of becoming the tech hub, again, rebuilding the entrepreneurial spirit, what have you. So what we do at 1871 is actually just ranked the #1 co-working space. It's a really cool, lively environment. If you haven't been there, a lot of our meetups are there, but also our classroom is held at that location. Also, our offices are here as well. But yeah, that's where we're in person in our classroom. The cohort size ranges from, we kind of cap it at 16 to 18 people. Like to have a close knit cohort, and they meet Monday through Thursday. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So 4 days a week, every week, from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. And then they meet essentially every other Saturday, and that'll be from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And that's when you have a lot more hands-on labs, you have more time to do certain things, and that's when we also do some of the competency testing, if you will. So we are a part-time program. So many of our students have that 9 to 5 job. So we try not to give you too much homework outside of class. But as you can imagine, the more time you spend outside of class, the more you immerse yourself, the better off you'll be. So students should expect to have an additional about 5 hours of work outside of class a week. That's to be completed on your own time frame. So the way the schedule is our next cohort is our winter cohort, and that starts September 11th, and that'll be our third cohort of the 2017 year. And then next year in 2018, we have a cohort that goes from, pretty much we have 3 cohorts. So we have a spring, a summer, and then a winter kind of scheduled out. So that schedule is on the website, but the next one will start in middle of February, and it's every 17 weeks, if you will. So if we kind of talk about what evolved, how we were founded, and kind of our history, I think that gives people a good perspective of kind of how we've grown and what we've done. My name, I probably should introduce myself at the beginning, but my name is Andrew Hamilton, and I am the co-founder of Evolve Security Academy. My other co-founder is Paul Peatfish. So him and I have known each other for 12 plus years. He actually went to college with my sister, so we kind of had the same entrepreneurial spirit, and I've always kind of kept in touch and meet at events or outings a couple times a year. A few years back, though, we started learning more about what each other do, and kind of started forming this idea for this company. So my background is I'm more the non-technical co-founder, but I started off as an investment banker. Don't hold that against me. Did that for a few years, and then I transitioned into private equity. And private equity is where we make an investment into a company, you own it for 5 or so years, and then you sell that company off. One of the companies that we owned was a company called Fishnet Security. Fishnet was bought by a company called Ocuvon, and then they actually changed their name and rebranded into Optiv. So the current state of that company is Optiv. They are a managed security service provider. They do services as well as they have some software. But when I was, working at the private equity firm, I did a lot of industry research. So I understood security from a high level, macroeconomics, understood the trends, and sat on board meetings and kind of saw that high level, board level view of the industry. Paul, my Peatfish, my co-founder, he was at a company called Solutionary, and they actually recently got bought by a company 2 years ago called NTT Technology or Communications, and they've been rebranded to NTT Security, and that's a Japanese telecom, multi-billion-dollar company. But what he did there was, it was a similar company to Fishnet, where I was. So he started off as he worked in the security operations center. So we're working, looking at people's companies' logs and looking at the different threats and escalating them. Then he transitioned into the more offensive approach, which was he was a penetration tester, so a pen tester. And then he moved into more management role, managed the pen testers, and then before he left, he's actually the director of professional services. So underneath him, he had 50 consultants working underneath him, and that was anywhere from governance, risk, compliance, to pen testers, to incident response and forensics. And he got together what he found in the industry, and what actually the industry is really seeing right now, is there's a huge shortage of talent. One of the biggest problems facing the industry today is the lack of people, right? We have a lot of technology and it's doing a lot of good work, but you still need people to manage, implement, monitor this technology, right? So a lot of times you have this great technology who's giving you great alerts and great analysis, but you don't have anyone sit in the seat to actually do the work or do anything about it or know what to do, right? So that being said, there's a huge shortage, which means the security work within an organization, people are in over their heads, right? So they have a lot of work to do, and they don't have time to bring a new team member on and train them, right? They want to bring somebody in that can hit the ground running, who knows what they're doing, and can do the work. They don't have time to train them, right? So what they're doing is they're just taking somebody, trying to poach somebody from, company A poaches somebody from company B poaches from company C, and company C poaches back from company A, right? It's that cyclical cycle, and nobody's really creating that talent, all right? So what actually Paul did at his former company is, he was having problem retaining folks and also finding folks, right, with his shortage to build out his team. So what he did is he kind of implemented a training program, right? Finding people with the right attitude and the right aptitude, all right? So people who are hungry, have a good attitude, want to learn, and have the right aptitude, right? Are smart enough to learn quickly and grasp the concepts. And also people who are passionate about security, and also kind of curious people, right? People who are tinkerers, people who like to break things and figure out how they work, and kind of have that engineering mindset, right? The problem solving, where the goal troubleshooting mindset, where they can, they might hit a couple red roadblocks along the way, but they keep at it and are able to kind of troubleshoot and figure out those problems. If you take somebody like that, even if they're not as technical, or even if they don't have any security background, you can teach them, right? We can teach them the skills they need, and that's what actually Paul did with a few folks in his organization, and had a lot of success doing that. So creating that talent again. That actually also merges, is very similar to the coding bootcamp space, which came up about 4 or 5 years ago as well, where it was you're getting people who, there's a huge shortage of, programmers, developers, people who can develop, code and create these programs or applications or software. So they needed to, instead of waiting for computer science majors to get out of the traditional colleges, these boot camps said, hey, let's get fully immersive, let's get hands-on, let's train people from very green to junior developers, programmers, and get them in the space. And it takes 3-4 months to do that, and they were very successful. So we decided it was a good opportunity to kind of take that same methodology of getting hands-on, being fully immersive, and implementing it into security. So we were the first cybersecurity boot camp to do that, and now there's a handful, but we've been around for about 1.5 years, almost 2 years, and we've had success doing that. So that's kind of been our approach. If you think about that approach to security and our education, if you will, right now our mission is to create well-rounded cybersecurity professionals and get them into the industry, right? To bridge that gap that's out there. Right now, if you were to trying to get into the industry, right? If you're trying to get into cybersecurity, you either maybe go the traditional degree program route, right? Which is go get a master's degree or a bachelor's degree in information security or information systems, maybe computer science with a concentration in security. But again, that takes a lot of time, right? Maybe 2 to 4 years and a lot of money. Or you can kind of string together a bunch of some certifications that are out there, right? But again, these certifications are read a book, take a test, right? So they were kind of teach to the test, and there are multiple choice questions and answers, right? And that's not really indicative of, if you pass those tests, well, the real world's not multiple choice. If only it was, right? We would be in a different space. So those are the ways they do it, but I think they lack in something of getting kind of hands-on and getting practical. So what we do is we're big proponents of, there's a 3-step model, our 3-step approach to becoming an expert in anything, really. Okay. So the first one is learn. Okay, so you got to learn the material, of course. Then you got to do the material. You got to get hands-on. You got to actually do the work, and then teach. Okay, to become an expert, you got to be able to teach it back, right? And really challenge yourself to teach it back. So learn, do, teach. Traditional colleges and education and certification programs, they do a good job and do good work at that learn part, which is, don't get me wrong, it's great foundation. It builds that foundation, but they kind of lack going on to the second one, which is getting hands-on and doing work. And that's really what we do. We concentrate on is, we will give you the work. We have some lectures and some relevant theory that we'll give you, but we get you hands-on right away. Okay, so we really concentrate on getting you on the command line, getting you working with the best of breed open source tools that are out there that the industry uses, as well as we have a lot of relationships with enterprise tools that are maybe a little harder to come by, and really expose you to that, which is, in doing the work. And then we really concentrate, we kind of take that doing part a little further. We actually take it one step further, which we're really proud of, is we actually also partner with non-for-profit companies, and you're actually doing real project work. So not just in lab environments, but real project work throughout the program. So about halfway through the program, you'll engage a non-for-profit company, and from engagement to delivery, you'll do a security assessment work on them. So you're actually doing something on a live environment, right? Which is hard to come by, right? If you're doing penetration testing is hacking into a system, right? You need to have a statement of work. You can't just go hack and practice hacking into companies because it's illegal. So having those relationships to actually do real work on real live environments is very valuable. Another very valuable thing to it is, one, it's a better way to learn, hands down. But on your resume, through optics, when you put it on your resume now, you don't just have to put, Evolve Security certification and training down here. You actually get to put that. That you're a security apprentice under work experience or project experience, right? Because you actually have a real project that you can talk to and work experience that you can talk about, which is very, very valuable, right? So that's another benefit. And then the way we approach that teach back, that third prong that we talked about, is, we are a competency-based training program. Okay, so what do I mean by that is to pass every module and to graduate from the academy, you need to prove your competency within each module. All right. So after each module, you'll have a sit down, a one-on-one with the instructor, and kind of like an interview, right? They'll ask you questions, and you have to prove your competency in that whatever was just taught within those last week or two, and kind of have that. So when you really challenge yourself to teach it back, is when you really are able to grasp those concepts, right? And it gets stored in long-term memory, right? And you can really pull from it. And then we also challenge our students, through review sessions, and even through the cohort through review sessions, get up on the whiteboard, explain stuff, or ask questions and explain yourself, and really get yourself thinking about asking good pointed questions, and then also following up. So that's kind of part of the teach back, if you will. That's the kind of our process and what we find the best way to learn. Another thing that we found is traditional education is usually not as fully immersive, right? And so what I mean by that is they might meet every Tuesday, Wednesday, or every Tuesday, Thursday, right? And it's over a semester long or a couple years, and you're taking different classes. And there's something to hitting it every day, right? Immersing yourself, and that's why we meet every day, every night. It should be part of your daily routine. Really starting to immerse yourself. If you're not in class, then you're reading blogs, listening to podcasts on your commute, just really starting to immerse yourself and hitting it. And then also usually with certification programs, you might pick up the book, you might read a few chapters, and then life gets in the way, and then you don't get to it for another couple of weeks, and then it's just kind of a slow process that's self-paced. It's important to hit it every day. So that's kind of another kind of approach that we have found to be useful. If we kind of take a step back into kind of why cybersecurity is so hot right now, right? Why are people interested in security? And then I think that'll be a good lead in, and then I'll get into kind of the curriculum and kind of what our approach is with the curriculum. So, cybersecurity, why have all of a sudden security a hot topic, and why is it so important? It's in the news, you read it every day, and what we found is, it's at an all-time high because, it's very lucrative and safe. So what do I mean by that is, cybercrime criminals, they're able to hide behind multiple IP addresses. So maybe they do an attack and they bounce from IP address all over the country, so it's difficult to track. And even if you do track them and know where it's coming from, due to international extradition laws or treaties that we have, it might be even difficult to prosecute them, right? And there's no danger to them necessarily. There's not any physical harm, and even the paper trail to even get prosecuted is hard to come by. So, over the last, couple of years, you've seen, you saw the Target breach where 40 million credit cards were stolen. Then 100 million healthcare records were stolen from Anthem in 2015, and then in 2016, we, just last year in September, we found, 500 million accounts were compromised at Yahoo, right? So this is going to keep escalating, and it's not going away anytime soon. And another reason we see this is because there's this creation of data, right? We're creating all these new applications. We are in the information age, right? Over 90% of data ever created in the world has been created in the last 2 years. And with the emergence of Internet of Things, everything's connected through the internet, through databases and everything. So, and we just don't have enough people to keep up with this pace of data creation and connections made to secure all this data, right? So, and we're also seeing that, we're doing a really good job in the security industry of it's a continuous cat and mouse game, right? But even as we become more sophisticated on the defense side, being a defender, you have to defend against thousands of different entry points day to day to day, right? Where a cyber criminal needs to find maybe one entry point, right? And they have time. If they don't get in today, maybe they'll get in tomorrow. They'll try a different angle the next day, next week. They have time, right? And they're becoming more and more sophisticated, right? And we're seeing that through different types of attacks. So everything's always changing. So, which is also kind of exciting about the industry, but it's also something that is very interesting. So, we keep coming up with more amazing advances in technology, right, to automate and defend our systems, but but that alone won't be enough to secure us. So, so we need to always have trained, skilled people to manage and monitor and implement these tools, like I discussed before. So we kind of talked about, how does this relate to the talent shortage? So, we are in the digital age where digital data and information is the cornerstone of every business. Okay, so whether it's intellectual property, healthcare records, social security numbers, or credit card data, your business could come crumbling down if this information gets in the wrong hands. And we simply don't have enough people to secure all this information, which makes us incredibly vulnerable at this moment. So, and like I said, technology is advancing at an exponential rate. 1 million new malware threats are released every day. And we simply can't wait, the 2 to 4 years for the next generation of cyber defenders to be created from, traditional degree programs. So that's something why we're kind of different, if you will, and why we're doing what we're doing. Let me see if you guys have any questions. Okay. So we kind of switch gears back into, what our curriculum is and what you'd be covering. So we have So we have a very holistic approach to our education. So, we strive to create a well-rounded cybersecurity professional, okay? And we do this because, these are the types of people that our hiring partners are looking for. But also it's important to have a solid understanding of security as a whole, because once you have an understanding of security as a whole, you're going to be more efficient and effective when you begin narrowing your focus, right, into a specific area. Eventually, you're going to want to niche and focus on one particular area, but you'll be more effective and efficient digging into that area. If you have that kind of holistic approach, because security is very intertwined, if you will. So we have a total of 12 modules, which I hope everyone, you can look at it on our website at evolveacademy.io/curriculum. So you'll go there and you can get a really in-depth view of everything that we cover. But security is a mile wide, okay, and it covers a lot of different aspects, from governance, risk, compliance, and maybe policies and procedures to very technical areas. But we try to touch on a lot of that because, again, being well-rounded is important. So each module, builds upon each other, but there's also just a lot of overlap. And the way I like to kind of break these 4 sections, like these 12 modules up, for me to better understand it, is I kind of break it into 4 different sections. And I kind of follow this in the path of how a company would actually approach security, okay? So the first kind of pillar, if you will, of our curriculum that's broken up into, think about your company, you're not doing anything for security. Where do you start? What's the first thing you need to do? Okay, well, first you need to, start a security program, right? You need to create certain policies and procedures that need to be followed. In order to do this, you need to really understand what your business does. What are the risks? What data is sensitive or confidential, and who should have access to this data, right? So if you take healthcare data, then you need to be HIPAA compliant. Or if you take credit card data, you need to be PCI compliant. What does that mean? What does that compliance framework look like? So there's these different types of frameworks from, we follow highly the NIST cybersecurity framework, but also, there's, ISO 27001, 27002. But there's these different frameworks that you can follow to ensure your data is classified and handled appropriately, and your security program is thought out. Being able to effectively communicate the risks of the management of these risks to management is important for them to really realize that investing in security is very necessary, right? So anytime you talk about policies and procedures and compliance, people start kind of snoring, right? But policies and procedures are implemented throughout the security program and affect the industry as a whole. So it's not even just placing a policy or procedure in place, but it's also making sure it's followed and implemented. So it's very, even though it's maybe the drier side and not as technical and sexy and fun, it's very important. So that's where we start out on it. And the reason, one thing that I like to talk about in this is we have a great analogy from one of our advisors called Steve Hunt, who comes in and talks to our students. And he starts the analogy with, okay, why do you have brakes on your car? Okay, you might say, I have brakes on my car because I want, to stop. Well, if I want to stop, I want to get my car, right? Why do I have a car? The purpose of my car is to go from point A to point B as fast and as safe as possible. So I don't have brakes on my car to stop. I have brakes on my car to actually go fast, right? If I can weave in and out of the traffic going 60 miles an hour, because at any moment's notice, I can stop. And that's something that we try to talk about when we think about security within an organization. A lot of people think that security as a division is an inhibitor, right? They come in and they say, hey, stop, don't do that, harden the system, secure that, make sure everything's perfect. But really, to be able to do that, we're kind of the brakes in the car. We're not there to be an inhibitor. We're there to allow you to go faster, and being able to communicate that to management, allows management to really understand the risk and understand where security is at, and we're not just a hindrance on operations, we're not just a cost center, but we really understand that, right? Security at the end of the day is risk management, right? As a security division, you are, security is the balance between risk and convenience, okay? If I want to be 100% secure, okay, you lock your door, and you unplug the Wi-Fi, right, or turn off the Wi-Fi and unplug the Ethernet cord. That's not very convenient though, right? Because having access to the internet allows your employees, your customers, gain access to your information, your data. Obviously, the internet is very, very efficient and convenient and useful, right? But you can't just open up anything and everything, because that's also how cyber criminals get in, because it's very easy, useful, convenient, right? So really, it's a balancing act, and every company's business is different. And even if you have the exact same kind of business with the exact same things, your risk appetite might be different, right? Where, I'm willing to take on a little bit more risk, or I don't want to take as much risk. So really kind of thinking through that is really important. As we move on from that first pillar, then we move on, okay, now I have the right policies and procedures in place. Now what do I do? Okay, now you move on to the second pillar, which is to protect the information and to defend against attacks, right? So kind of the defense, detection, and architecture of an organization. So this is kind of called the defensive side of security, or, the blue team. Here is where you'll design and architect a network. You'll learn how to configure your firewalls, implement access control lists. This is where you kind of analyze the traffic that's coming in and out of your network, and monitoring logs of your network and your endpoints. You might establish intrusion detection and intrusion prevention systems. You want to enact like a defense in depth, and you want to harden all your systems. So really just kind of, building up the defenses. In this area, we also cover physical security. That's part of it. It's not just cyber security, it's information security. Physical security is part of that. As well as like social engineering, right? Which is, acting like someone to get access to something. So there's like email phishing scams and that kind of side of it. So understanding social engineering and, cryptography, right? The encryption and decryption of data, public-private keys, kind of all fall under this umbrella. So that's kind of the bulk of it. And that's also where a lot of jobs are, and where a lot of, you'll learn a lot. It's kind of like the really great lays the foundation of security, that's the defensive understanding. Then we move on. Okay, now your defenses are all in place. You've built them up. Now what do you need to do? Okay, the third pillar is, well, you need to test it. How do I know if I'm actually secure if I don't test the systems, right? So you can either do this internally, where you internally test it, or you can hire maybe an outside consulting firm, or pen testers, okay, penetration testers, or white hat hackers who attempt to hack into your environment and find vulnerabilities before the cyber criminals do. Given how often technology changes and the fact that new vulnerabilities are found every day, it's important to kind of do this. Most companies do it quarterly, or at least semi-annually, to find, to perform these assessments. You should do it continuously, but for compliance reasons, sometimes you only need to do it once a year. And then the fourth pillar, if you will, so now you've put the policies and procedures in place, you've defended against your systems, you've tested it. Okay, now I'm good, right? Now that's a continuous loop, and you do it. Well, the fourth pillar that we kind of talk on is the new age of security, the new mindset. So the new mindset in the industry is, there's two types of companies. Companies that know that they've been hacked, and companies that don't know that they've been breached. Okay, so the idea is that it's just a matter of time. You're going to get breached. So how do you respond to that, right? It's kind of crazy. It actually takes companies on average 99 days to realize that they've been compromised. And 1/3 of U.S. companies that were surveyed were breached in 2016, just last year. So that's pretty crazy. That 99 days has actually come down from like 150 days. But as you can imagine, the defense and detecting if you've been breached is important. But then also, okay, how do I respond? So it's important because sometimes people might have, if they don't have a response plan, or they don't have the right policies and procedures in place on how to respond, they might respond inappropriately, right? So they might decide, hey, I'm just going to wipe my system and reboot the image. It's fine. I have all my files backed up or saved. Let's just do that. Well, that might not be the right thing, because when you're wiping a system, you might also be wiping the logs, right? And with the logs and the information and you can't do the forensic work to figure out how they got in, right? And even if you wipe the logs and rebooted it, or even if you store the logs and then you just reboot the image, you need to figure out how they got in, because you need to know, what data was actually breached, right? What did they actually take? Did they just take, Jim's Disney vacation pictures, and it's not non-classified, not, data that you're worried about, or do they have client social security numbers or credit card data, right? So really understanding what was taken out the back door as well is important. But that's kind of part of the process, right? So being able to respond correctly is important. And then once you understand what information was taken and how they breached, then you understand how that affects the company, right? And how that affects the risks of the company, and how do you respond, and what cleanup work you need to do, and it kind of comes full circle. So that's a lot of information that I just covered, right, through the life cycle. But it's really important to kind of have that understanding, because as you can imagine, if you want to be a cyber defender, you're going to be a better cyber defender if you understand how the hacking works and how a hacker would get in, and that mindset. It's a much different mindset, right? And vice versa, right? If you're going to be a white hat hacker and you want to be, on the offensive side of security, you need to understand the architecture of a company and the defenses and how to get around them. And if you want to be an incident response and forensics, right, you really need to understand, how hackers get in and how they leave trails, and how you take advantage of that, kind of do that forensic work. And even policy procedures, right? You need to understand all of it to kind of understand how it affects the risk and how an organization actually works, to be able to manage the security program, administer it, as well as put in place the right policies and procedures throughout an organization. All right, so we have a question here. Ralph, are there any scholarship programs to help offset the fees? Yeah, so I'm going to jump to that real quick. So we are, the cost of the program is $10,000. So that's for the 17 weeks. We have, the way the admissions process is done, maybe I can kind of go through the admissions process, is we have, you submit maybe a form entry, or you have our information here, and then I would send you a full application that you can fill online, or a fillable PDF that has some essay, your educational history, your technology experience, why you want security, what your expectations are out of the cohort, and the academy, what you're looking to get into, as well as some essay questions to see kind of how you write and how well you write. We review that, and then we would ask you in for a in-person or face-to-face, if you're remote, face-to-face interview. And we would talk about really level set expectations, right? What are you trying to get out of the program? What are your expectations out of the program? And then we try to level set those to make sure you're not thinking that you're going to get out of this program and start making $200,000, right? And we try to see what a good path, what you're interested in, and the right path for that. And then after that, you go into, after that interview, we have a rolling admissions process. So we would either accept you right away if we think you're a good fit, or we would, maybe give you some additional lab work or exercises to get your technical chops up to speed. Really what we're looking for, I kind of talked about it. The number one prerequisite we're looking for is people with the right attitude, right aptitude. People are passionate about getting into security. We can teach those people the skills they need. If you're technical and you're not passionate about security, and you're kind of lazy and you don't put in the work and the time and the energy, it's harder to teach you to be passionate about this stuff and really care about it, put in the work. So we'd rather take somebody who's smart, who is driven, who is ready to take on the challenge. And, because the reason why we do that is because that's how the security is kind of born. It's innate in the culture. Security division was born, 10, 15 years ago, but they were the IT guys or the network guys who were getting breached and didn't really know what was going on. And they're the ones who raised their hand and said, hey, I'll go figure it out, right? I'm curious. I'm passionate about this. Let me try to figure out how this works. They became the security folks, right? So it's really important. And, technology changes every day. Attack vectors change every day. You need to have that curiosity. What makes you a better candidate then is if you have maybe a technical background. Maybe you've done development, you've kind of messed with coding a little bit, computer science. Maybe you've done some networking or system admin work, or help desk, desktop support, working with technology. That's helpful. and then you're enrolled. Once you're accepted into the program, we give you an acceptance letter and then an enrollment agreement. Again, the enrollment agreement kind of level sets expectations and talks about the program and what to expect. And then you would submit a down payment of $1,000 and it's non-refundable $1,000 to secure your seat in the cohort, in that specific cohort. And then the remaining tuition would be due before the program starts. So for the winter cohort coming up, it'd be September 11th. So half of the remaining would be due September 11th. And then the second installment, the remaining of the tuition would be due halfway through the program. Those are, that's kind of our financing and our payment structure. If you can't do that, we also partner with some private loan institutions, Pave and Klein. And we're also shortly here working with a company called Skills Fund. And these are private loan companies who have done their, they loan out to these kind of coding boot camps. They realize that they've done their research on us. They know that our graduates are getting good jobs after, and they can pay the tuition afterwards. So they're willing to kind of take on that extra risk, and it kind of also spreads out the cost of the tuition, over a year, maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years, depending on what kind of loan you get. If you have difficulty, getting that loan as well, come to us, and we can, we put people on payment plans or tuition payment plans, depending on who they are and what they are. We don't like doing that because we're not a loan provider, right? But if you're a good talent, we feel good about you. We have in the past taken on that risk. That being said, do we have scholarships? Yes, we do. They're fewer and far between and less as we're continuing to grow and get a lot of good talent coming in. But yeah, we do like to reward people with scholarships, and they're merit-based. We do offer women, minority, and veteran scholarships, ranging from, and then also general scholarships. So ranging from $500 to maybe a couple thousand, and it's merit-based, right? So it's like, hey, do we think you're going to be a go-getter? Do we think you're going to be successful through the cohort? The reason why, we like women, minority, and veterans is because, companies also like to hire those types of individuals as well, because they like to have diversity in tech, as well as, veterans are, security is innate in them, and kind of what they do. So they're very well, and maybe they have clearance and what have you, and great work ethic, of course. So companies like to hire those guys, so they're well suited. But we also, we're all about diversity in tech in that sense, but also diversity in backgrounds. So we also offer scholarships to people if they kind of fit our mold, right? We like to have a diversified cohort of different backgrounds. If everyone came through and everyone, was a network admin, or everyone had a coding background, you're not going to learn as much as people coming from different backgrounds. Maybe it's maybe they've worked in finance or healthcare or maybe they're a lawyer and they come from a legal background. So we try to mix that. So we might offer scholarships, maybe entice people to kind of, if we're looking for that kind of that fit, if you will. So we do offer those. You apply. Once you get accepted, with that acceptance letter, you'd also get that's when we would award the scholarship or discount. We also have an early enrollment discount. So if you apply and enroll 1 month before the start date, that's another $500 off. And then if you also pay the entire tuition up front, we offer a $500 discount on that as well. So if you early enroll and you do that, it kind of brings it down, which kind of helps offset those costs. We have a couple other questions here. This is great. Okay, could you explain the career? Could you explain the career services aspect of the program? Thanks, Audrey. So we look at the career services side as half of our business, right? Our goal is to train people, but then also get them in the industry, right? So our main goal is to get you a job. So we work very closely with, every week we bring on a new hiring partner who understands our program, our philosophy, what we do. So we, that's our main goal. So we spend time beginning of the class setting expectations. At the beginning of the cohort, I come in, or someone from our career services center comes in sporadically throughout to kind of make sure, just get you thinking about your resume, get you think about your stories, thinking about resume prep, interview prep, starting thinking through next steps, if you will, and get the ducks in a row. So right when you graduate, you're good to go. And then towards the last week, as you're finishing up your final projects with maybe the not-for-profit, you're studying for the final exam. We also come in and do some, like I said, resume prep, interview prep, really show you how to get a job. You're not going to have any luck if you just submit a resume and hope for the best, right? People hire people, not pieces of paper. So even though, we help you with the resume and that kind of maybe gets your foot in the door, we also have you go out networking events. We make connections. We kind of figure out ways to get beyond the HR department. I think 70% of resumes aren't even read by a person, right? They're filtering mechanisms. So either you have to kind of hack your way in that way, or you need to try to get in front of the hiring manager or someone within HR a different way. And we kind of we know how to work those around, so we work with you. So we have hiring partners who either have hired our graduates or are advisors or active instructors who come to our meetups, who are very comfortable with the way we approach things. And they agree to read and look at our candidates, right? Read the resumes, actually read them, as well as agree to interview them, right? So that's very valuable. One thing that we do is, they understand our process and who we are and who we have, but we also submit instructor profiles on each student, right? We've been with you for 17 weeks, right? We know your strengths. We know what you're interested in. We know where you'd be a good place within an organization. So we're able to provide that value to a hiring partner, and they find that very valuable. Kind of going back a step process of like, what do you get out of the program, right? So you get the hands-on work experience, actual project experience. And then at the end of the cohort, we have our final exam, which is it's a makeup of a multiple choice short answer test exam, right? And then we also have a hands-on lab, right? So you have a couple hours where we actually you have to utilize the tools, you have to do what you actually learned throughout the course, a defensive approach, offensive approach, and do different things, and show your ability to do the work, if you will, and that's part of our lab assessment. If you pass both of those, you get your Evolve Security Certified Professional certificate. Okay, so now we have our own certification. So that's kind of one thing that you get. And then we found that our students were easily passing the CompTIA Security Plus exam, the 90-question exam that's very technical, a little bit more well-known in the industry. So we also sponsor you to take that. We don't teach to it. We don't like to teach the certifications. We have our own certification, our own hands-on approach. But we do give you a book at the beginning of the class that's kind of your textbook to go over and read throughout the course. And then you schedule it 2 weeks after our exam. We give you a voucher to take that exam. And then, so now you also have a well-known, technical certification. And then you couple that with our hands-on approach and our hands-on certificate and work experience, becomes very marketable to a hiring partner. So that's part of the process. Hope that answers your question. Yeah, we're judged, if you will, or we're valued on our ability to place people, right? We have a 92% placement rate, where on average people get jobs within 60 days. And but what we do is you've been coming to class for 3 days a night every night, right? Part of your expectation coming in, that we try to tell people, is you should also be allow time after the program to also spend 3 hours a night or 3 hours a day. So kind of get your mindset that it's just not over. Don't just go take a vacation for a couple weeks or a couple months, even though you might want to. But with those 3 hours should be broken up into looking for a job, of course, right? But maybe only half your time should be looking for a job. The other half should be continuing education, right? Which is either reviewing the work that we previously did, or the labs that you've done in class, or go deeper in the labs, or look up new tools or new things, right? The continuing education is great. Now you have a good understanding of security and different tools and aspects. So dig deeper, if you will. Last thing you want to do is go into an interview and they're like, hey, what have you been doing for the last 30 to 60 days? You're like, oh, I've been looking for a job. It just makes you look like you're interested in the job, and you went through this training because you wanted a good, high-paying job. No, you want to show that you're passionate about security. You want to show that I went through it not because I wanted to learn. I just want to learn. I have a thirst for knowledge. I just want to learn. I want to learn. So being able to point to actual things that you did is important. One thing that we've seen valuable is you might not have work experience. People want work experience. Coming through the academy, you have more work experience than maybe, people coming out of a certification program or getting a certification or getting a degree. But you have 3-4 months. But the more you can kind of talk about projects that you did, even if it is just a home lab, if you will, it's very valuable to really talking about how I went home and I did this, or I went to my friend's small office and configured their network and found some vulnerabilities and worked with them to remediate the problems, right? So just showing that you're passionate, you're doing it, and you're getting hands-on. One thing that you always need to try to do is anything that you learn, try to get hands-on with it, right? If you're reading a book on networking, try to figure out how IP addresses and how your connections are at your home network or at work. It's going to help you grasp those concepts a little bit better, and it's a better way to learn and kind of approach problems and situations. So something that we teach too. Got a lot of questions here. Whoa, hopefully we can get to these. All right. For those of us who don't have any IT background, how long is the prep course? Okay, so it's a great question. We have taken people with very green backgrounds and got them through the kind of the prep, if you will, and got them jobs, right? Because again, they had the right attitude, right aptitude, fully immersed themselves. What we found though with the first couple cohorts that we went through is, we cover in the first 4 weeks remote, we cover some networking and Linux. So networking and Linux are probably the two that we cover and we review, but it's a lot of materials. I mean, you could spend a lifetime, or you could spend a career in networking or a career in Linux, right? I still not know enough or feel proficient. So it's a lot, and we teach to a lot of it. In our first 4 cohorts, they got through it, but it was painful, right? It's a steep learning curve, painful. So some of the prep exercises, if you're coming in, that we start getting we have till September 11th, right? We have some time to start working with you. So the more you can get up to speed, the better. The more prepared you are, it is kind of ease you into that. And if you're very green, we can even set you up with some computer science classes or some free, there's a lot of free stuff out there, to get you start reading about this, start looking into stuff. So we start guiding you towards that and pushing you towards that and working with you. So definitely reach out on our website, hit the apply now button. You'll get in touch with us, and we can start say, hey, I want, interested in the prep exercises that you talked about on the webinar. And we can start sending you these things, and then along with the application, and then it's a good idea for us. It's actually better if you come in with nothing, and then we give you the prep exercises and we see how you did on it, right? We have some labs in there too that you can, give us a response to how you did. And then we kind of gauge, okay, within a week or two, this is how far they got, and this is how they grasped the concept, and they're competent in it. It gives us kind of a good gauge of kind of where you are and how fast, if you're able to pick up that stuff, then you're able to move forward. Something that I didn't really talk about in the program is we have a lot of people, so coming out of the program, you have people going into either network or security analyst positions. Maybe that's probably the lower. Those salaries range from 55,000, 65, 70. the $70,000, right? 75. If you're coming in with maybe a little bit more technical background, maybe some networking, maybe some coding, you might qualify for a security engineer or a senior analyst, right? And those salaries we're seeing anywhere from 80, 90 into the six figures. So that kind of depends. And the reason why our curriculum is valuable to those ranges, if you will, and we're able to deliver to like senior people or maybe more like non-technical people as well as very technical people, is because we have that holistic approach. We might start a concept and we start on a lab and we show you this tool and we dig down deeper. We dig down a little bit, play around with it for a couple of days, then we pop back up, we go to the next tool, go to the next concept. And you always pop up and get that high level view and understanding, so you have a good idea and holistic approach and understanding of what's going on. But then we dig down deep, get hands-on, come back up. That kind of the approach, if you will. So obviously, anything that you dig down deep, you could dig deeper into, right? You could spend weeks, if not months, if not years, within any specific vertical. And we really teach you how to dig deeper within these labs or go in deeper, right? You can always read more, look up more, investigate more, and then also become an expert in it, not just get exposed to it, but also challenge yourself in teaching it back, right? So you're really an expert. So we've had people, we kind of view security as, we have people coming through our program who want to become security individuals, but we have also people coming through the program who are maybe developers and coders who just want to have a better idea of security. Or maybe they're managers and want to have that tool in their toolbox, right? So like we view almost security should be a part of everyone's. If you're in IT, it's going to be a requirement to have a baseline understanding or a good understanding of security. It's going to be almost required. But having that extra tool in your toolbox makes you more valuable. And we've actually seen within security or even as an additive, 20 to 30% higher salaries, just having that knowledge, if you will, right? If you're an engineer, you're a coder developer, project manager, what have you, if you have that tool in your toolbox, you're that much more valuable to an organization, as you can imagine. So that being said, we've taken people from fairly green and gotten through, but we've also taken fairly technical people, and they get a lot of value out of the program as well. Hopefully that answers your question, Byron. Another question, after the application has been submitted, how long does it take before you hear back from you guys? It's a rolling admission, so if you submit an application, hey, this is Sydney, actually. I think you just submitted one today. So we'll get back to you. I'm actually leaving all next week, so I'll be out of town and won't be in the office, but after July 4th, I'd be able to get back to you, specifically Sydney. But so if you submit an application, we review it, and then we follow up to schedule an in-person interview. If you're still pretty green, we might give you some of those prep exercises if we're moving fast, but typically we'll get back with you within a week. We'll try to schedule something out, anywhere from the next day or out a week or two. And then after that interview, we might have some follow-up exercises for you to do, or we might be able to enroll you right away. If we accept you, enroll you right away, we can get back to you as soon as 1 day up to 3-4 days, depending. Our review process is, we have an admissions board. We sit down, we all review the applications and make sure it's a good fit. And more we're starting to delay that process, right? As we're filling up the classes, we're getting a lot of good qualified candidates. We want to make sure we have the best of the breed and have the best of getting in. So with some people, we might kind of put you on the wait list, if you will, and it might get delayed a little bit, just to kind of see and have a certain cutoff where we have a couple seats remaining for a lot last entry people, if you will. But yeah, it can move as fast as a week, if not a couple weeks through that process. What's the typical salary range for folks who get hired after your certification? Like I said, it kind of depends on who you are and what you do. Security analyst, 55 to 70, 75. If you're more a security engineer, you're getting upwards to 70, 75, 80, possibly into the 90s, depending on how much work experience you have and how much of a rock star you are. I mean, we did have one guy who wasn't even that technical. They kind of had a niche within threat intelligence, and he ended up becoming, well into the six figures. And he almost took a SOC level position, a security, security operations center position that was at 75,000. But he ended up getting this offer. So he thought he was going to have to do the SOC level position for a few years or a year or so, and then get into threat intelligence. But he was able to get there right away and got a senior security analyst position, right? So it just kind of depends. It kind of varies. Does one have to get recertified for security every couple years? No, we don't have that. We might implement that later on, but right now, once you're certified, that's your certification for us. I believe it's the same with the Security Plus. Other certifications like the CISSP require some kind of, continuing professional education credits that you need to go get. But for our certification, no, you do not. As of now, we might that policy might change, especially now that you brought it up. Next question: what would be the most difficult industry to manage cybersecurity? Example: healthcare, financial firms, retail. Oh, that's a good one. I would say healthcare. Financial firms. They've done a pretty good job. There's, and same thing with like retail, right? Retail, you're getting credit cards. Credit cards go for about $3 on the black market, right? Because I can issue you a new credit card number or issue a new credit card. It's pretty easy. Same thing with financial firms or financial institutions, right? Most things are done with credit, or there's a lot of policy procedures there to make sure money's not actually stolen, and you can recoup that. Healthcare is different, right? Healthcare records surprisingly go for $40, $50 per record on the black market. And the reason why is because I can't just issue you a new healthcare history. I can't just, issue you a new number like you do. And sometimes those healthcare has information, such as social security number and your address and all that kind of stuff as well. So those records have a lot of good information. And people use this information to do phishing attacks or social engineering attacks because they know more about you. It looks like, if they know that you're prescribed to this kind of medication and you have this, illness or what have you, they can really target you, and then you'll click on that email to get the malware or whatnot. Also, it's difficult to, so they're very targeted, but they're also hard to manage because they're very segmented, right? They have their healthcare system. They're also connected to the insurance companies, which is kind of a financial institution. So there's a lot of money flying back and forth and records flying back and forth. But they're also very segmented, right? You have, these healthcare providers, and then they have different clinics within each one. Not to mention all this data and all this information with the emergence of Internet of Things. Everything's starting to get connected, and you have all these connections that are being made that make it more and more difficult to manage all those connections. And you also have, the whole doctor mindset where, the doctor might own the clinic or be part of that organization, and they're know-it-alls, right? But they might not be able to manage this kind of risk as well. And all they're focused on is I want to care for my patient. I don't care if you send it to my personal email address or send it to my personal laptop or iPad. I want to be able to do it from home, on the road, wherever I am, and they're not as concerned about security because they just want to client care, right? So getting over that hump is also another thing. They like it their way, they're old school, less willing to change. So that's kind of also hard to manage. So that's hitting it from a lot of different angles in my mind. When is usually a good time, office hours, to visit the academy and talk to an advisor? I'm here, typically 9 to 5, 9 to 6, what have you, or other individuals here within the academy are around. Try to reach out to us. My email address is andrew@evolveacademy.io. If you submit it to the info@evolveacademy.io, it'll get to me. If you're starting, you should be able to get my email if you try to contact us out via our website, and we'll schedule something out there, right, for you to come in. Coming in and seeing the place, seeing what we're all about is definitely valuable. We also have a lot of meetups here at 1871, and there's a lot of other meetups that are going on. So you can kind of, our classroom is actually right behind the reception, right? So you can kind of easily kind of come around and see the space and see what we're all about. So I would definitely, just reach out to me. We'll schedule a time. But yeah, usually during work hours. A lot of people work though, so if you need to come in at 5, 6 o'clock, I'm usually around. I'm usually here. I can stay late that day, being around. I'm here right now, right? So if you want to stop by now, we could do it. But that'd be the best way. Thanks for those questions. I'm gonna really quickly go through if there's anything that I missed, because we kind of went through all that really quickly on my list of questions. I think that's it. Again, if you want to get a job, again, you want to immerse yourself in security, go to networking events, continuing education, tinker, anything you learn or research on, try to apply it, try to get hands-on, and then kind of a good lead in into security is networking and Linux. So we didn't really talk about Linux actually. So networking, IP address, subnetting, TCP protocol, really, that is security. That's how data is transferred. That's how that's how our computers are talk to our servers that hold the databases that hold the information. That's how people get in, right? So really understanding how those connections are made and how those packets are transferred and that data is transferred is throughout the industry and kind of what you'd be doing on a day-to-day basis. Also, we do a lot of work in Linux. So Linux is a open source operating system, okay? And it's used in a lot, if you need a cheap operating system put on a server or a router or kind of all the Internet of Things, right? It's an open source, it's free, so you can use Linux, right? And to do that, so we do a lot of work in the command line in Linux, which is a way for to talk to different endpoints off the servers, operating systems that are maybe holding databases or holding information. So just getting familiar with navigating the directory, getting comfortable with Linux is what I would concentrate on. But besides that, again, just immersing yourself and being passionate is the best. All right, thanks for staying on and dealing with me. We have. And I'll stick around for another couple minutes if people want to throw in another question. If I didn't get to one, I apologize. But really appreciate the time. Again, hopefully, submit an application and then we can start talking, and we'll go from there. So thanks for the time, and we'll hope to be talking to you guys soon. All right, have a good night.